Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
It's a great day. I'm Mark Imperial. For the past 7 years, I've scoured the globe looking for noteworthy experts, businesses, people, places, and things. On this special edition of the show, we'll meet some of the world's leading professionals in health, nutrition, and fitness, people from all across the country, around the world, and in your town. Welcome to the program. My next guest is Hanniel Puell. He's from Progressive Physical Therapy, and he's the founder and runs a program called Specialized Training and Athletic Restoration, or the STAR program. Hanniel, welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So, Hanniel, tell us a little bit more about the STAR program and the type of clients that you work with.
The STAR program is a specialized program that I created with Progressive Physical Therapy. The group of people that I work with are those who have suffered some sort of trauma, injury, say, ACL, back injuries, spinal fusions, anything. And one of the biggest concerns for all of those people that come in, or our guests, how we call them, is getting back to their active lifestyle. That was the biggest thing for them. They're concerned that they can't do anything. They won't be able to run, work out, even perform basic everyday functions. So I decided to create a program that is specifically tailored to the movement of the body, and that's safe and effective for them to regain their strength, regain their confidence, which is the most important, and return them back to whatever lifestyles that they wanted to do, whether it's, like I said, playing sports or going out for a walk, playing with their grandkids, which is a huge thing. And I've been doing that program for about 3 years at our Santa Clarita location, and it's been very humbling, and it feels great seeing all of our clients recovering and doing things that they've said they weren't able to do 5-10 years before. So it's something that's very positive, and we enjoy it.
Tell me a little bit about your clients when they first come in. What state are they in? Do they have fears? Are they fearful about the process? What's on their mind?
Yeah, to be quite honest with you, when they first come in, they're not happy.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone comes in, they're in so much pain. And the biggest thing that we have to do is just give them confidence and let them know that we're here to help them out. The biggest issues that they've got is really much pain and fear of doing specific movement to make sure they avoid that pain. So they start to compensate in various forms. So what I do is we educate. That's the biggest thing, education. And we go through each functional movements with them so that they understand what it is that we're trying to achieve. And then they kind of build up on their confidence little by little. And after you build that great rapport, the trust is there. And, it's, from then on out, it's to the moon and back,
Now, when do you discover that they can, work out and train? Because I'd imagine if they have pain, are they fearful of working out because of the pain? They think they'll make it worse? What's your view on that?
Yeah, they definitely do feel, they definitely have that fear in them and think about they don't want to push their limits too much. We definitely, before we progress them to anything that's higher function, we always do some sort of assessment or test just to make sure the body, the limbs, the muscles are all capable of working or capable of, performing the tasks that we ask them to do. And then we always start by baby steps. We never have them force them to do or have them do anything that they don't feel comfortable. But at the same time, we give them the courage. And then once they trust us, and that's the key thing, once they trust us and they know we'll put them in a situation that's always to progress, then they're able to do things on their own. So it does take a little while, but as long as they, do the exercises that we ask them to do and we have that communication with one another, it tends to work out great.
Are there some little-known pitfalls or common mistakes that you're aware of that your clients may make and that you're going to want to help them prevent? What would those be?
Well, the common things that I see a lot of is pretty much the loading that people do when it comes to their their weight distribution on their legs. I see kids as young as 8-year-olds and adults as old as 60, 70, 80 years old, where every day they're loading on the balls of their feet and they're causing a lot of knee pain, and it causes a thing called valgus where their knee just knocks inside. And everyone thinks that, they got knee pain, and whether they may have some sort of issues, majority of the time, it's pretty much the joints above or below the knee, right? So a lot of people focus on strengthening out their quads and their hamstrings and working out on the butt. And while all that is good, the main things that people tend to overlook is what we call the hip stabilizers or the hip adductors, abductors, like your glute med, your glute min. You have to make sure we keep a balance on that and the lower back. And those muscle groups tend to be overlooked so much, which we always tell individuals, I go, the more basic, the better. My clients hate me when I bring out the loop band and put it around their ankles to strengthen up their glute med and their hips, and they sweat more than ever before. They'd rather be squatting like 250 rather than getting a nice loop band around the ankle and working them out. But those are the common things that I see that I wish, it would be presented more in, I guess you could say, a general population or in fitness gyms and everything, because those muscle groups, a lot of injuries can be prevented if, stabilizing muscle groups tend to be more focused on rather than the hinge groups like your quads and your hamstrings and stuff like that.
Hanniel, what inspired you to become, a trainer and, get involved in this? How'd you get started?
Yeah, well, I have a unique story. Originally, what ended up happening with me was I was going to school as an architect major. And then a very traumatic thing happened in my life when I was young, when I lost my grandmother. I was like 19 at the time. And I was always into sports. I was always into athletics, but that really got to me. That was the first death I experienced. I gained massive weight. I was overeating. And then 3 months down the road, I decided to go to the gym and start to work out. And, when you start going to the gym and you go around the same time, you see the same faces over and over and over again. And then all of a sudden, 3 months went by after I started going in the morning, and I noticed my body started changing. And the same group of people that was with me, that I would see, still looked exactly the same. So I was thinking to myself, I'm all like, well, how is it that I changed and then they didn't? And then I saw someone training an individual, and so I decided, how about I change my degree from architecture, get my certification as a personal trainer, and get my degree in nutrition. I mean, I figured that would be a good route for me to go, especially since I would see my body change. Another thing, too, is that, I saw my parents kind of going around the same directions in terms of diabetes, cholesterol, and I didn't want my parents to go through the same phase. So I decided to do that to help my mom and my dad. And that's kind of how it sparked. And then from there, I would get my degree, I would train, and then I had another kind of life-changing moment where my lung collapsed. So my lung popped.
Whoa.
I was hospitalized. They told me I couldn't play anymore. Soccer, I couldn't compete. And so I was kind of rehabbing myself in that aspect. And I kind of told myself there had to be a different way of doing things. There can't be just a one-size-fits-all. So that's when I started to really understand the anatomy, started to really understand the physiology of the body, reactions. And once I was able to drop the body fat, build up my anaerobic conditioning, use my nutrition, my knowledge, I wanted to go out and help out those individuals who feel like they are stuck. They're left with what they are, which is a bad hip, bad knee, and they can't achieve whatever they want to achieve. And so if I was able to do that, and I was able to help myself, who was told I can't play soccer anymore, and here I am, 3 years later, 5 years later, with an 11-month-old boy who's definitely making me winded because I have to chase after him. Anyone else could do it.
What caused your lung to collapse?
What was funny? I used to skateboard a lot,
Uh-huh.
and I believe it was one of those instances where I just fell and my lung may have just popped.
Wow.
And when I got to the hospital, they took a chest X-ray and they told me, yeah, your right lung, it is the size of a raisin. So we're going to have to stick a chest tube inside you and get you better again.
Oh, scary.
I'll tell you, that wasn't a fun process.
Yeah, and of course I asked the question of somebody from California. Of course you were skateboarding. So, hey, take me back. What was your observation? You mentioned that you noticed yourself changing and your body getting good results, but your friends were staying the same. What did you observe was the key difference between what you were doing and what your friends were doing?
Everyone was doing the exact same exercises every day. Or they stuck to a traditional, I guess you could say a traditional workout program where it's like chest and tries, squats and lunges, and they focus very much on single plane, single joint movement. So they would be doing chest presses all the time. They would probably be doing shoulder raises. They would be doing the squats, and they would be progressing each and every time. While my movement and my training program, even from before I became a trainer, was very multi-directional movement. So, and one of the things that I remembered growing up was you have to train your body like an athlete. Now, I'm not saying that you have to run and sprint and do all those things. Far from it. What I mean is you have to train your body in the way that it's meant to be trained, which is in different planes. Muscles work together in unison. Very seldomly do muscles work on their own. So if you work out all the muscle groups together, include them in each movement, you go into different planes of motion, which is like the frontal, sagittal, and transverse plane. And, just load them up and consistently, instead of doing like a chest press one day, the next day you come over and you may do an overhead press.
See, and now you're speaking a whole different language to me. That's why I imagine there's a benefit to working with a professional.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different planes of motions, and like I said, it tends to be a lot more than just a squat, push-up, row, and a lunge. There's definitely more to that.
So your friends did they experience what people consider a plateau because they were doing the same movements all the time?
Yeah, and not only the plateau, but then you see the very common symptoms such as rounding of the shoulders for the guys. So that it's kind of what's known the invisible lat syndrome, where their shoulders are rounded forward and their arms are like out and wide to the side, but there's no lats there. So it's kind of like they're just big and rounded. Things that you notice in females is most common is valgus, or pretty much knock knees, where the knees kind of go in. And that leads to lower back pain, knee pain, neck pain, and they stuck pretty much on that. And the hardest part, to be quite honest with you, is trying to get them out of that mindset and try new things. And it tends to be a challenge in its own, but if you open up your mind and trust the process, give the body pretty much like 2 to 3 months to really adapt to it, then you'll definitely see a huge difference in your body.
So, Hanniel, are you also, besides helping people in physical therapy, are you also training people in fitness in general?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I work with athletes. I work with like high school collegiate athletes. I work with people who are pregnant. I work with people who are trying to do conditioning for themselves, like stay-at-home moms, the busy people who work 40, 50 hours plus a week, even those who are trying to get ready for some sort of competition, whether it be fitness competition, athletic competition. So I'm involved in all of that.
Oh, that's terrific. Hanniel, how can our listeners learn more about you and connect with you?
They could definitely go to our website, which is progressivept.net. We are the Santa Clarita location. We also have a Facebook, too, which is facebook.com, progressivept.sc, which is our Santa Clarita location. And there's a link to our STAR program over there.
Fantastic. Hanniel, this has been terrific. I appreciate you coming on the program today, and I wish you continued success with everything that you're doing and with all of your clients.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
This is our special edition on fitness, nutrition, and health. My next guest is Brian Lenzen from Zen Fit out of Long Beach, California. Brian, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Mark. Pleasure to be here.
Brian, tell us a little bit more about BZen Fit and the type of clients that you help.
Well, BZen Fit is my private business, but I'm a high school physical education teacher in Imperial High School in Long Beach, California. I use my personal training, research, and all the workshops I go to help my high school students to be the best they can be. And at the same time, I'm on a committee for California Middle School Workshop at Cal State Florida. It's going to be in its 25th year. I use information from National Teacher of the Year for my students, and I also cross it over to my personal training business.
What's the main mission when you work with your high school kids there? Are you working with them on anything specifically, or what's their main mission when you meet them?
The main mission is, one, it's physical education, but I want to give them tools and things they can do that they can, it's lifelong. It's basically a lifelong mission for them to be fit. And if you present it in a fun way where we actually do most of our cardio work, our running is in games where you're playing games like when we were kids and you're having a fun situation, the students will do it more often. They actually ask for it. And then also, because most high school students do a lot of sitting, their muscles are imbalanced, so they're asymmetrical, or one side might be stronger than the other, or they might not have any, especially core strength. So what I do is I work a lot with building their core up and working their posture, because carrying around those heavy backpacks with all the books in it, they're bending over. They also have their neck looking down at all their phones, doing their texting, and just kind of educate them on what their posture should be like, how life can be better, and the main mission is not to be in pain. Get them out of pain and just help them to enjoy life.
Brian, I understand that you have an interesting story. What inspired you to become a personal trainer?
I was always active my whole life. I played basketball through high school and college, and then I worked for UPS for 20 years. And one day on my route, I was in the back of my truck doing a pickup, and a gentleman had a heart condition. He was driving down the street, and he passed out while driving, and he rammed his car into the back of my truck, and he was still passed out, and he ended up keeping his foot on the accelerator, and I was in the back of the truck bouncing around. And you always hear about the surreal experience of being in a car accident. Everything slows down. It really does. I thought I was in slow motion flying around. And about 2 or 3 months later, because of the muscle spasms from all the muscles being tight from the accident, and also the type of job it was, my right hip ended up moving up about 3 or 4 inches, which threw my whole body out of balance, totally asymmetrical. My back was actually, the spine looked like an S all the time because when the muscle spasms so tight. And went through physical therapy for about 6 months. It didn't really do much because they didn't attack the trigger points where all the tightness was, their traction and everything else. And I made it my mission to get out of this pain because my life was not enjoyable. I was grumpy and in pain. And so I did a lot of research and looked at personal training. And one of the main bases for personal training is using self-myofascial release, which is basically self-massage using foam rollers or lacrosse balls. And by doing this, I broke up the tissues and I basically got back to being pain-free, and I made it my mission to not let anybody go through that. Life is not fun when you're in pain all the time.
Oh, I gotcha. So I also understand that you're certified in precision nutrition, so you must feel that nutrition plays a huge part in fitness. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Nutrition is, our immune system is based on what we eat. And if you think about it, around the holidays, a lot of people eat a lot of sugar foods, and a lot of people end up getting colds and sick around the holidays because their diet goes wrong. Our diet is, it's like a car with gas. If you give it bad gas, your car doesn't function right, and our bodies are the same way. So precision nutrition kind of really clarified, looking at how you eat, slowing down you eat, because a lot of people are in such a rush, they just choke the food down. They don't masticate in their mouth. They don't let it the nutrients get into our system. There are certain foods that need to have, or certain vitamins that need to have fats to absorb in our system. If we slow it down, we allow ourselves to realize when we're really full and we don't overeat. And just by eating mindfully and, putting your fork down, having the right amount of food, which could be like a size of your fist for your greens, the size of your fist for leafy food, having water. The protein should be about the size, if you're a woman, it's the size of your palm of your hand. For a man, it's the size of the palm of your hand, 2 times the width. And I actually lost 10 pounds. I was in pretty good shape. I still lost 10 pounds just by slowing down what I eat, not eating as much. And it's made a huge difference for me.
Oh, that's terrific. So if you were speaking to somebody that was, wanting to get in shape, but have been putting it off, what pearl of wisdom would you give them to get them motivated, get them started onto success? What would you tell them to do?
Well, the idea is the way I look at it, you can't really tell anybody to do, but you start asking them questions to try to get to the root of the matter of why they're putting it off. And you keep asking the question why. There's a book out called Start With Why. I forget the name of the author.
Oh,
but
Simon Sinek.
The fitness gurus. Yes. A lot of the fitness gurus and also a lot of CEOs of companies are using this now to go back to really getting people that have that intrinsic desire to help themselves and be better. And so if you ask them why, they might just say, well, I just want to lose 10 pounds. But then you ask, well, why do you want to lose 10 pounds? Well, again, I want to feel better. But why do you really want to feel better? And you keep asking the questions so they can ask themselves why they really want to feel better. I mean, it might be an older person that's a grandparent that wants to be able to play or see their grandkids or play with their grandkids. It might be somebody that feels that their significant other isn't paying attention to them because they aren't in the shape they should be, or even just, have the energy they need. So if you just get down to the root of the matter, then they have their own motivation to do the work. And me as a personal trainer and also a teacher, my job is to try to get to that root and support them in their effort to feel better.
So focus really on that why. You want to be motivated until the motivation outweighs the pain of staying where they're at.
And it doesn't have to be pain when they're going through it. I mean, if you guide them the right way, and people come in. It's really hard a lot of times to come home from work and go work out or whatever else. But when you realize that energy begets energy, when you give a lot of energy, you actually create a lot of energy for yourself. Because if you're losing weight and you're eating properly, all of a sudden you're changing the way your system works. If you're starting to eat right, then you're creating better energy because the food's going in there. It's a better, higher octane gas than you're having, for your car. And then when they start moving, they feel good. You get those endorphins that go to your brain. Have you ever heard of the term runner's high?
Yes.
And it's the same type of thing. People that work out, that's one reason CrossFit is real successful. They give people a push, and unfortunately for that, they sometimes go, too far, because injuries happen when somebody's technique is wrong or they get tired and their technique breaks down. So the idea is to guide them along, to show them the proper technique, because somebody might have been, whenever they're growing up, they might have had somebody that didn't know how to show them to do something right, or they might have had PE teachers, and I know this from a lot of people. All they did is have them run laps around the track or yell at them, whatever else. I mean, that's not a motivation to go work. For my PE classes, what we do is we play a lot of tag games. We play tag games with noodles. Have you ever seen those pool noodles?
Oh, pool noodles, yeah.
So you do is you cut a pool noodle in half, and if you and I were playing tag, we would play rock, paper, scissors, and the loser would have to do 3 push-ups. It gives the other person time to get away. Then the person that did the 3 push-ups would pick up the noodle and go chase your partner and hit him below the knee. Then you put the noodle down and start playing again. That's what I do in my classes, and the kids just love it. And they're just running around having a blast. But they don't realize that by the end of the class, they might have done 30 push-ups. They might have run 25 or 30 splits or sprints. And in that time, that's more work than they've done in a week. But if we do that 2 or 3 times a week, that's a lot more work than they do all the time. And all of a sudden they start feeling better. I've had students actually lose 30 pounds in 3 months just by starting to eat right and just by doing some work. And it was them doing it. And they feel good. They're smiling more. They're happier. And that's the best part, just seeing their smiles on their faces feel better about themselves.
Wow, that's tremendous results, Brian. So for our listeners out there, if they're near you or want to connect with you or learn more, how can they find you?
My email address is bzenfit, so it's B as in bear, Z as in zebra, E as in Edward, N as in Nancy, and then the word fit, F-I-T, at gmail.com.
Brian, this has been great. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the program today. I wish you continued success for you and all of your students and your clients.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark. I really do appreciate the time.
My next guest hails from California, Loren O'Neill. Loren, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Loren, tell me a little bit about your work and the type of clients that you help.
Sure. I started off as a massage therapist and strength coach, and just recently finished a fellowship with the Gray Institute, 40-week mentorship program with these physical therapists. The clientele that I see are just people that want to get better at a sport or rehabilitation type, people who are trying to move better, walk better, live their life a little better. Everything I've learned I kind of incorporate all together. So my practice is changing between people in rehabilitation to people who are trying to be better at their high school or college sport.
Give me an idea of like what your typical client, when they approach you, what is it that is their biggest challenge, would you say?
Most people have a big challenge with this misconception about mobility. They always want to get this extra length and mobility, but most of the time we're all pretty good at how we are. It's not to say that we can't improve. It's just we don't have to push ourselves so far.
I know there's a lot of, misconceptions out there about fitness and mobility. What would you say some of the biggest misconceptions are out there, and what would you say about them?
One of them is being stretching. Stretching is big, and everybody thinks they have to hold a stretch for a certain period of time. The way I tell people is one of the nicer approaches is holding a stretch for a couple seconds, but treating it as if you're treating your workouts between sets and reps. So how I look at things is repetitions is key in our life. If we want to get better at anything, just repeat it instead of forcing it and holding it for so long. So if you were going to stretch, I tell people usually try to stretch for 2 seconds, but instead of holding one long stretch for a minute, try to do 10 to 12 reps of stretch for 2 seconds.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. See, I grew up in martial arts, and I recall seeing all kinds of crazy stretching techniques. I mean, I've seen some brutal ones, people standing on your legs and holding them. So tell me about that. What do you think about stretching? Is it better to have a nice, easy approach to the stretch, or would you actually do like a, leg lifts and really stretching it out hard, impact like that? What's better?
Having an easier approach. Any type of force on someone is going to cause some sort of restriction. Psychologically, you see people wincing or trying to fight back, and that kind of slows down the progress that you're trying to get. But if you can make it gentle and you can repeat it, and say every time you repeat it, you get maybe a half an inch. If you do that 10, 12 times, that's another 6 inches that you can easily, gradually go into, as opposed to, like you said, having someone stand on you and force you into a position.
What do you say about stretching cold?
That's how you start. I mean, stretching cold, stretching warm. The whole purpose of stretching is just to get the muscles to open and close, which allows blood and nutrients and oxygen to go into that muscle. So stretching cold is completely fine. Again, as long as it's not painful, you're not holding it, you're not hurting yourself. Our muscles hold a certain amount of oxygen, fluid, liquid, blood. So to have a tight muscle and then hold a stretch for a minute and not have it move for a minute, you're blocking off the entry to blood and nutrients into that muscle. So you're it's like choking yourself. You're not allowing yourself to breathe. You're not getting any better from that.
Okay, so it's okay to stretch cold if you take it nice and easy. And it's also okay if you do like a warm-up jog to warm up your body and get the blood flowing before you stretch. That's okay too?
Yeah. I mean, as long as, again, it doesn't hurt, those are all adequate ways to prepare yourself. A warm-up is just meant to do that are going to make whatever movement you're trying to do easier. So if you're going to run a marathon, a warm-up jog would be okay, acceptable.
Excellent. So, Loren, how did you personally get inspired and how'd you get started as a fitness professional?
Like most random people, trying to impress a lady. But most of the time, I mean, I started off as a carpenter and just didn't like the idea of being a carpenter. So I went to massage school feeling like that would be easier. And then from there, I just started to learn more and more modalities and techniques. I moved to study underneath a lot of people, so I interned with a few people, and I just kind of built on to what I know. Out of all the theories out there, I don't think anybody has the perfect idea, but everybody put together creates a really good, strong base of practice. And so I've learned from physical therapists, massage therapists, chiropractors, medical doctors, neurologists, trying to combine everybody's theory to one.
Oh, I appreciate that. So if any of our listeners would like to get a hold of you or learn more about you and connect with you, how can they do that? How can they find you?
They can reach me by my email, lorenhelps@gmail.com, LORENHELPS@gmail.com. Or they can reach me by phone, 516-305-3311.
All right, fantastic. Loren, I appreciate you taking the time and coming on the show today, and I wish you continued success with you and all of your clients.
Okay, thank you so much.
That wraps up another episode of our Health, Nutrition, and Fitness Special Edition. If you know a remarkable expert, business, person, place, or thing that we should feature on the show, drop me a line on my email, radioguest@markimperial.com. That's radioguest@markimperial.com. Until next time, I'm Mark Imperial. Take care and make it a remarkable week.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.